Hello, everyone, and welcome to an XTIVIA webinar, delivering the information you need for the business future you want. We're sharing our knowledge to help your business thrive in today's new normal. My name is Alex Killian, and I'm the video producer here on XTIVIA's marketing team. And today you'll be hearing from some of our Microsoft experts, Senior Account Executive Karen Crowell, BI developer Sid Godum, and Head of our Govcon division, Paul Skrupski. To tell you just a little bit about our company, for nearly 3 decades, we've been providing a variety of expert IT services to hundreds of businesses in countless industries. If you can imagine the business outcome, XTIVIA can create it with technology. And this webinar is the third in our series of Microsoft webinars. We've got 2 more of these Microsoft webinars upcoming, so please make sure you come back and register for those. And don't forget that all of our webinars are available on demand on our website. And as you can see, XTIVIA has a wide range of expertise in the Microsoft space. We do everything from customer experience to cloud solutions. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Karen for our agenda this morning.
Thank you so much. Awesome. So today we get to talk about Power BI, and I'm really excited about this one. To start, we're going to talk about some business challenges, and it's just the why. You know, why are you here? Why are you listening to Power BI? And what brings businesses to this discussion? We'll go a little bit over the history of BI, the evolution of Power BI specifically, and then how Power BI fits into the Microsoft stack and Business Central, and then also specifically our Govcon 365 application for Business Central. And after that, we'll go over some ways Microsoft is leading the way in the BI space with Power BI, and we'll finish up with some stories. Next slide, please. Awesome. So to briefly discuss just business challenges and what we're facing today, we have so much access to so much data, and it can be overwhelming, and this is a possibility to take this data and really see what we're looking at and use it for desired business outcomes, because that's what we want, right? We want our business to do well, and we want to succeed, and this is just an avenue for that. We're looking at, in the last 2 years alone, this stat is crazy, the astonishing 90% of the world's data has been created. So, I mean, we have so much to work with, and this Power BI specifically is an opportunity to take this data and put it into reports and analyze it and give it to the right people at the right time without taking up too much manual time or asking the IT guy who took vacation, who's the only one who knows how to use reporting, to the desktop level, which is really what we're after here with Power BI. Go ahead and take the next one, please. Sid, go ahead and take it away from here with the history.
All right, thanks, Karen. I appreciate it. So let's talk a little bit about the evolution of business intelligence, how it has grown over time. If we really look at it, right? So, I mean, data has been used for centuries by business. It has always been there. The medium and accessing those data has always been different. You know, from earlier human civilization to the revolutions, you know, the medium of recording this data have always changed, but you know, but at the end of the day, the data has been there. You know, the earlier business, I think the data in business date back to centuries, and business like banking and construction industry are among the earliest business that had used the data to make their business decision. Last century, you know, Henry Ford, he came up with we all know assembly line. He also used data analysis to come up with a more efficient way of rolling out those vehicles. You know, we went from, you know, using punch cards and personal computers now to mobile devices and cloud computing. So it is an ever-going and evolving process. In the mid-1980s and the mid-1990s, we used canned reporting that was written by some developers. And now we are going from there to using some statistical software to now using applications like Power BI, and, you know, with the birth of Web 2.0, big data, predictive analysis, you know, report itself is evolving into you know, self-service and data visualization to, you know, to medium way of accessing them is, ever changing. So today's, BI 2.0 term was kind of in late 1980s. I think it was brought up by Gartner. In a way of, gathering the data, storing the data, analyzing the data, and then assessing them. As we store this data, it came about and say, hey, how do we access them? How do we go about making a business decision based upon them? So next slide, please. So, what is a simple BI process, right? First of all, we need to gather the data. If we do not gather the data, the whole process fails. So how do we gather? It could be from your own business intelligence application or a business model that you have. It could just be, writing down somebody's email address that, that you met at a workshop or something, right? That we gather the data, we store the data. So present form of course, storing these data are not going to be in paper and pencil or, using paper. But it'll be stored primarily in the major databases like MySQL or SQL Server, Oracle, whatever it is. Some format might also lie on CSV and text flat files. Then we can use process like ETL just to clean up this data, and then we can create a reporting database or data warehouse, and then analyze the data from there. Right, that's where application like Power BI and SAS and Tableau and SSRS, they all come in. At the end of the day, once we have the data, the data that just sits in a database, it's just a useless data because we need to make actionable decision based upon these data. So then we go basically from there to creating these application in Power BI and in business intelligence application. Of course, the main thing here we want to talk today about is Power BI. So next slide, please. So what is a Power BI architecture, right? First of all, it all depends upon the, how the data is stored in the database. Then like we were talking about, the transformation of the data takes place in which we could actually bring multiple data sources, insert those data in another database or data warehouse. And then from there, we can use Power BI's dashboarding capabilities to using KPIs and everything to the end user. So, and of course, you have the reporting capability to distribute and extract those reports. So let's go to the next slide. So what are the, what type of data sources does Power BI support? So as you can see from this, the list is just ginormous, right? So, I mean, you can just imagine all the databases that you have the access to them. You have different file system as well as other applications like QuickBooks, which a lot of small business use. Next slide, please. So why Power BI, right? That is a very important question. I said first, because of simplicity. It has a very easy to use architecture. So why is it simple? What makes Power BI such a easy product that somebody can just use it or self-serve it? So first of all, easy integration with the data sources, because you have so many choices of data sources. You do not have to go hire a developer to create a custom data source. So that makes things much easier. So now you can just go take your application, connect to the data source, whatever that might be, whether it's you are in MySQL, whether you are in Oracle, whether you are in in Postgres, whatever your data source might be, you have that capability. And after that, once you have connected to your data sources, the deployment of this product is very simple, right? So because Power BI is available as a product on premise or a product as a service on Azure, which gives you this elasticity to expand. It is also simple because of, for end users, at the end of the day, when you create it, is just not the IT who is going to be babysitting, to a certain degree, hey, all the end user. That makes it, the process more complicated because IT has so much requests. They have their daily maintenance, especially with the vulnerable world that we live in. You have to think about their architecture, everything like that. So which brings us to end of ease of access to the end user, which is like whether they want to access the reports in their tablet or their mobile devices, they can do that. It supports Android, it supports iOS, it supports your Windows, or if you are in a Mac and you want to use via your browser, you have the Power BI as a service accessible as well. as long as you can access a URL, you can access a Power BI server. Second, the other part is also ease of creating the content. As you can see here, right in front of you, that you have a desktop architecture where you can go and create these reports and then dashboards, and you can deploy them to either Power BI in Azure as a service or Power BI as a report server, which is going to be hosted on premise. So what is the cost, right? What is my cost to get all these things? So it is a very cost-effective solution because majority of the, at under $10 per user per month, I think it is a very, you do not have to think about, hey, I need to buy $100,000 license or whatever that might be, just to build a proof of concept. So if you want to test a concept, you can take 2 users, connect to your data source, start building the data, clean up the data if necessary, and you're ready to rock and roll. So Power BI also comes up with the concept of like in-app marketplace. So what is that is, you can use a third-party charting capabilities and that has been developed. It's like app store for iPhone. It's equivalent to accessing the charting capabilities and other capability that Microsoft has as a developer given you rights to create and distribute. You can use Power BI as a service without any hardware constraint. This is very important because if you really look at it in terms of, hey, if I want to go and deploy a product or software, and in old way, you actually have to go get a server. Is your processing capability able to handle the number of users? Or is it you have too much memory, or you have too less memory? Do I have enough, cache on my CPU to handle the data? Is my RAM enough? So you don't have to worry about it. Just grow as the elasticity of the product grows, right? So I mean, you add 50 users, and you need more cores, so you can add more cores, right? It just that's the flexibility that's very. One of the last thing is secure, right? I mean, security is very important, especially from the world that we live in. So sharing and restricting this content is, where everything is at. So I think once we realize that, hey, this is the data I want to present to the subsets of users, you have that capability. So you don't have to, you're not bound by, one size fits all approach. You can grow your business and, create a tendency as you move along. So the other part that I want to, basically, if we really sum this thing up, business intelligence is all about, and Power BI, most importantly, is all about your business workflow, right? I mean, faster decision-making, efficient decision-making, discovering the insight, as a data analyst or business intelligence developer here, don't make your business decision using your guts, right? That's like flipping coins, head or tail, and then making decision. I mean, you might be right and say, hey, I was right, I told you so, or you might be wrong, and then you have to, it's just not a right approach. So bottom line, use Power BI, make a better business decision, and you'll have a better business outcome. So right, I think next. So Paul?
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Sid. Yeah, so this gives you a little insight into leveraging Power BI, how it's going to change your business. And I know Karen's got some input on this also, but being able to provide self-service analytics at enterprise scale is a huge deal. And Microsoft's concept is, how do they bring analytics down to the desktop level? So in the past, it was always an IT experience. End users didn't have the ability to build their own queries. But now with Power BI, both from a licensing perspective, as well as the cloud delivery model, end users can actually not only have delivered to them dashboards and reports, but they can build an ad hoc query on the fly. And then as you look at the way that they deliver it, it can be delivered through a tablet, through the cloud, or my favorite, I'm operating right now on my cell phone, right? So today we're a mobile workforce, especially in today's environment. And if you want to get information from your phone, whether you're a passenger in the car or you're on the golf course, you can get to that rich analytics and make good decisions even when you're not in the office. And certainly Sid talked about all of the security involved. And with Power BI, they leverage RLS, which is row level security, and really be able to not only protect your data from the outside, but also protect it from the inside. Because there's certain people in the organization that need critical data in real time, but you want to restrict what they can see. And the example I love to use is for our government contracting clients, they want to make sure their project managers can only get access to information about their projects. And when they look at the costing data, it's only the people that work for them. They don't want to see the entire organization. So security is not only protecting people from the outside from getting your data, but making sure your internal users only see the information that they need to and see it in real time. So that's how Microsoft is really changing that dynamic of how we can deliver key information so you can make the right decisions at the right time. Next slide. All right, so a little bit about Power BI and the Microsoft stack there. So the power of Microsoft, and Sid touched on this, and so did Karen, is that Microsoft is great at developing applications that are easy to use with a similar look and feel across the entire environment. And Microsoft's had a history of doing that, and they've done it again with Power BI. And they've also continued to build on that cloud-first, mobile-first strategy. So that's what's exciting about what they've done to continue to build out their solution set. The first point on here is Microsoft 365. So one of the things that I think Microsoft has done that was genius is bundling Power BI as part of their E5 license. And Alex talked earlier about where we have a webinar coming up on licensing. But with that E5 license, Power BI just becomes a component that all businesses can use. And for under $10, like Sid mentioned, if you just buy it off the shelf or from XTIVIA's licensing team, and we're happy to provide you with access and also support there. But for $9.99 a month, be able to have rich analytics, unheard of. We'll talk later about Sid and my experience in the past, but I can tell you that in the old days, an analytics project, the licensing could oftentimes be $250,000, certainly not $10 per user. The second is Microsoft Teams. So if you think about today, whether you're using Teams or you're using other communication platforms through Citrix or Google, Teams, people think of it as just communication, but it's also collaboration. And one of the things that Microsoft has done is build hooks so that you can take your dashboards and reports and embed them into Teams. So now it's a collaboration platform. So as an organization, if you want one place to go to look at key data about a project, whether it's Business Central data, it's data from Power BI, we can embed that in Teams and find better ways to collaborate. Office 365, from an Excel perspective, Sid talked about Excel as one of the ways we can get data into Power BI, but we can also be able to pull data out of Power BI into Excel. So before the evolution of Power BI, Excel was Microsoft's analytics solution, being able to leverage their add-in with Power Pivot. But today people still want to do some things in Excel, so certainly we can take data from Power BI and push it back into Excel for some of your analysis needs. Business Central has been my background personally for over the last 20 years. And Sid showed all the different tools from which we can publish from that source into Power BI, Business Central being one of them. But Microsoft has really taken it several steps further. So, with most of these applications, we can take data and publish it on a regular basis. But with Business Central, how it works with Power BI is it's much more sophisticated. The first is around financial statements. So whether it's an income statement, statement of cash flow, or balance sheet, you can publish from Business Central those financial reports into Power BI. Not just the canned statements, but if you wanted to build your own specific income statement, there is no programming to be able to publish it over to Power BI. We just need to turn on the Power BI service for that financial report. And now any of the metrics from that financial statement can flow over to Power BI, and now we can turn it visually into something so we can analyze the business. So for me, that's huge. The second is Power BI, instead of it being a one-way street, we can actually take Power BI views and embed them inside of Business Central. And Microsoft, by default, has done this in two main ways. The first is from the Role Center inside of Business Central. And if you've joined us for any of our Business Central, which is Microsoft's mid-market cloud ERP solution, the Role Center is the homepage that any user goes to start their day. So now we can have rich analytics on their homepage to show them trends, whether it's related to accounts receivable, customer revenue, your indirect rates. So I don't have to go over to Power BI. I can go to one place to get all the information and perform all the tasks that I need to right from Business Central. And then also the entity and list pages, which is any master record inside of Business Central, we can put analytics on top of it. So whether it's your inventory, it's your customer information, vendor information, being able to get to it easily from one place, certainly a huge advantage. And that's really the Microsoft story, is trying to bring everything together. Microsoft pre-built some queries as well as dashboards so that you have a starting set. So we've pre-built and published into Power BI some critical data around inventory, financial information, customer information, and vendor information. And then finally, Microsoft's got their Dynamics 365 suite of products. And at XTIVIA, we support all these different solutions on the mid-market side. So on the ERP, Business Central, also sales, which is our next webinar coming up, just a little plug from Alex earlier. So if you want to be able to take from that initial inception of building a relationship with a customer all the way through delivering excellence for that customer, Dynamics 365 is a great way to do that. Sales being the starting point. We're doing a lot of projects around project service. So for project-based organizations, that whole planning phase through delivery. And then finally, the human resources solution within Dynamics. So the common data service is the way that Microsoft integrates these components, but you can bring that story all together within Power BI on the dashboard front. So, some exciting things happening on the Microsoft side there. Next slide, please. All right, so with our Govcon solution, which is on AppSource, so if you want to try it out or learn more about it, certainly we'd love for you to contact us. But what we've done is, at XTIVIA, we focus on a lot of vertical markets. The vertical market that I lead is our Govcon practice, so government contracting. And we've taken some key metrics that every government contractor needs to manage their business. One of the ones I mentioned earlier was around indirect rates, but also project status reporting for those services companies. You can see one of the reports on the left-hand side. So it's showing everything from tracking your funding and having to notify the government when your funding hits a certain rate, to budget versus actual data, and then detailed tracking of costing and revenue. So we've pre-built these dashboards and queries to publish information from Business Central. So you've got that advanced starting point. And then on the right-hand side is some of those dashboard views that we've designed, but for clients that need more of a client-specific view, we can take on that effort for you, or you can build it yourself. And that's one of the things that Power BI provides is, tools that your IT as well as end users can be able to support and do the work themselves. So a lot of exciting things happening there. Next slide. So if you joined us, this was probably about a month ago, we did a webinar around manufacturing and government contracting on the contract manufacturing side. So these are just a couple examples of some case studies that we have where we've helped government contractors move from older legacy systems over to Business Central. The reason why we wanted to highlight them today is because one of those main reasons was around reporting and dashboarding. And both of these businesses were running Deltek. And one of the big challenges they had was it was difficult to get real-time information into the hands of decision makers. So with the combination of Business Central and Power BI, what we're able to do is break down those silos of data between multiple sources, from sales to delivery, and bring it all together in one place with rich analytics so that people could, really drive growth as well as making good decisions in their business. So both of these organizations have had successful rollouts of Business Central and Power BI, and we're continuing to build on that for them, as well as their internal teams building on it, because we get them to that point of success, and what drives them to the point of excellence is that we give them the tools so they can be self-sufficient going forward. And really, I think that's the Microsoft story is, we don't just give them a shell, we give them a full solution, but then give them the tools so that they can drive success going forward. Next slide. All right, Karen.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. That's awesome. So I'm just going to speak here to, we obviously support Power BI and we suggest it to our customers and clients, but so does Forrester and Gartner. So I'll just highlight a couple things from here. Under Forrester Study, savings of 125 hours per BI user per year through self-service. That's a vacation that you're able to provide somebody in saving time and the headache of manually getting everything together to make those decisions for your company and show in the rich analytics and visualizations that Power BI has. And for Gartner, if you're familiar with their Magic Quadrant, the bottom is the completeness of vision, and then the side is the ability to execute. And Microsoft is leader for BI in this field right now for them. And they're saying that it's the way to go. So it's just another reason for you to check it out and see for yourself. Look, do the research. It's worth it. Go ahead for the next one. Thanks. So I'm just going to share a brief story, how Power BI, I've recently helped a client with it. They had called us and said, they were spending Tuesday afternoons, 4 hours a day, getting data together for their weekly Wednesday meetings, like the board members of this business. And he said it was 4 hours every Tuesday. That's just, it's too much. You have to get all the data together. You have to get it into the report. And it's the same report every Tuesday. He knows what he needs to do every Tuesday. But with Power BI, they're able to automate this whole process. So he gets his afternoon back. Everyone can see the data. You can drill into the data to see why it's there in the first place, which is huge to make those business decisions on changing things or pivoting. And then you're able to predict what's coming up next, and you're able to see what's happening in the organization. And it just highlights this bottom left quote here is perfect. Power BI has allowed us to automate mundane work, create efficient workflows, and make data-driven decisions. And that's what it did for our client as well as NIPA. So it's just another story. But Sid, did you have a story to share here about Power BI?
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Karen. Several years ago, I worked in a small startup in California, and the reality was, as a startup, you do not have the resources. You do not have a business in, BI dedicated person or a data analyst or business analyst. So what happens is you have to wear a multi-person hat. So, the reality, there were not a lot. At the time, there was not a lot of product that you could just deploy now. How you can deploy Power BI, right? You can go there, within a few minutes, you can have an analytical product just ready to roll to all the users. so we spend a lot of time, a lot of weeks trying to figure out what product we do, then we go through software evaluations. So what happens is a lot of time gets wasted, so you could use those time efficiently with a product that, that is ready to rock and roll, basically, right? So you have your data, plug those data into an application like Power BI. So we ended up spending several weeks of time, and then within a month later, we still did not have a deep understanding of what business was doing. So there was a lot of valuable time, especially in a startup. It's a very fast moving world. You want to make sure that your marketing campaign that you did last week was successful. Hey, I use this. We wanted to sell a product to certain retailers online. Was the retention rate of those company good enough for us to continue paying that high amount of commission? So we were not able to actually gather. Now the world has evolved, and especially with the launch of Power BI, the capability for small startup or even a 2% or 3% company can now leverage the power of Microsoft and Power BI to make that decision much easier.
Yeah, Sid, great story. And to kind of give you the opposite end of the spectrum, I started working with Business Central 20 years ago, and I was a director of applications at a $500 million smart card and credit card company. I was in the U.S. division. We were probably about a quarter of the revenue. So back in the day, Business Central was called Navision. Now Microsoft has renamed it from Dynamics NAV to Business Central. But I remember after we did the initial ERP rollout, we were looking for an analytics solution, and we decided on Cognos. And just to give you an idea, the software for us was about $250,000, and the implementation was $250,000. So let's kind of compare that to today's world. So if I had 100 users at $10 a month, I'd be paying $1,000 a month for Power BI. Compare that to $250,000 investment up front, this business needed to make. And now when you think about the services, Sid and other folks on our Power BI team, we've been able to roll out solutions for companies of similar size, and they might need to make an investment of anywhere from $15,000 to $50,000 on the services side. It depends on your needs, but just think about the difference in cost and the speed of which we can deliver now with Power BI. So, for small companies or large enterprises, we can support you, and the cost is not as much as you think, and the value we can deliver is amazing. So, just a whole different world, and I'm excited to be part of it. So next slide.
All right, and with that, we can move on to our Q&A section. Thank you, Karen, Sid, and Paul so much. The stories were really great. It looks like we did get a couple questions from our audience this morning. First of all, we don't use all Microsoft products. Can we still use Power BI for reporting?
And I can take that. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, with the flexibility that Microsoft has provided in terms of a deployment practice, you do not need to be a Microsoft house to host Power BI or to use Power BI, right? Power BI is to a degree very independent, even though the support of single sign-on and especially with the deployment in Azure, the flexibility of just spinning off of multiple cores or another easy deployment of load balancers and easy deployment of authentication application. You do not have to worry about it. You don't have to be a Microsoft shop to use Power BI. You will need access to kind of like Windows environment to install like Power BI desktops where you can go and install and create some content in your local station. But even with as a service, you have the capability via the cloud.
Okay, thank you for that, Sid. Our next question, Please outline and explain the data cleansing capabilities of Power BI, if any.
And so data is all basically a very independent, from Power BI, right? Power BI is so data cleansing usually takes place when you are using application like an ETL application to clean up your data, transform your data, and load the data. So that can happen. That process usually happens majority of the time before a data reaches Power BI. However, when the data reaches Power BI, you also have the capability of renaming the tables and creating conditional using DAX expressions to create custom columns. So data cleansing is absolutely it can be handled in the process in multiple places. So that should not be a concern.
Yeah, Alex, and on that question, maybe the thing we can do is if we've got the individual that asked, so we can follow up with them afterwards to find out what their source of data is, so that we can kind of have a little deeper discussion around how we can help with that data cleansing in that ETL process, like Sid mentioned. So it would definitely help to answer the question, to understand the applications they're running, and then we can give them a more specific answer on that. So certainly that'd be a great follow-up discussion we can have.
Yeah. Especially if we do not know the data source, if it is coming from the text file, a CSV file, is it in the database, is it in, so there is a multiple source where the data could be hosted. That could be, if they need data cleansing, that could be, the problem could be in multiple places or just one places. So we just need a little bit more clarification on what exactly the problem is. So.
Okay, so definitely reach out to us with further questions regarding that. Our next question, does Power BI require any form of coding to run a query?
Well, I think with Power BI, to a degree, if you know how to write a SQL query, you can write a custom SQL query to bring your data in, but you have drag and drop capability, so you do not necessarily require a coding capability, right? I mean, if you know how to write a summation equation in an Excel sheet, you can write a summation equation in a Power BI in the expression editor. So it is coding capability is always a plus for any information systems, but to a degree, no, you do not need a coding capability to completely utilize the function that Power BI provides.
Okay.
So like Sid mentioned, from the desktop view, there's some capabilities built into it for an end user to be able to build a query. And then also depending on the source where the data comes from. So with Business Central, we actually design and develop the queries inside of Business Central, publish it over to Power BI, so that query is done up front in the ERP system. And then we can also build other measures off those inside of Power BI using that desktop development environment. So again, something we can have a little deeper discussion, but it's something where end users or non-IT people can, build out those queries, but also having a little bit of experience from a coding perspective can help you do more sophisticated queries. So, if clients need support like that, Sid and his team can certainly help, but clients can do a lot on their own in that point.
Okay, awesome. Our next question that came in, can you give any good examples of good balance of Power BI expertise within a mid-sized organization, IT versus power users in the business?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So as I look at a lot of our clients on the Govcon side, what we typically see is that XTIVIA provides that, I'll call it first line, where we're providing the base training and experience for the IT organization. And typically in a company that might be 150 to a couple hundred people, they'll have one technical person that'll interface with us directly. And we can certainly provide all the support, but usually they'll have one technical power user that is the one that drives all of the building of queries, the scheduling of the extraction of data and how often it happens. And then the power users, really their role is around helping the end users to understand the data, as well as how to build an ad hoc query on the fly, kind of the use of the interface, whether you're doing it from the browser view or the phone view. So I'd say the normal balance for that kind of company is one technical person, and then typically, anywhere from 1 to 3 power users supporting all of the end users in the organization.
Okay, excellent. Our next question that came in, what size companies can use Power BI? And I'll address that to Karen.
Sure, thanks. So we kind of went over that a little bit earlier. I mean, anywhere from startup to $500 million organization. I mean, I can use Power BI. There's some drag and drop capabilities. It's so easy to use, but you can also leverage those advanced queries and using it with Business Central and other applications. So it's scalable to use with companies who are going to just use Power BI, or if they've already been using so many others or legacy programs, what have you, and then they incorporate Power BI to just really enhance the functions.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Karen. I think we have time for one more question that came in. How do you link Power BI with your data source?
So I think, it depends upon the data source that you have. If you have a flat file, it is basically as simple as browsing it. If it is some database, you just make some the data source connection that Microsoft has pre-built or certified. You can use those to connect directly to the database. And if they need any assistance in terms of that, we can definitely reach out to them, and we can help them out on that too. So.
And
All
Sid,
right.
just to add to that, Alex, real quick on Sid's comment. So, Sid showed earlier, some of those listed data sources. So oftentimes Microsoft's got a pre-built connector. So and it doesn't need to be a Microsoft solution. So Salesforce connector, I've used that before. Also, there's one for SAP. The thing that I'll say is that's a starting point. So if you need support around that, we can certainly, we'd love to work with you, whether it's from an education perspective or technology support. So for Sid and his team to be able to enhance those pre-built queries or add to them. So what I'd say is the sources that Microsoft has on their website is a starting point. Oftentimes you'll need more than that, and we're always happy to jump in and help. So thank you.
Definitely. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any further questions. And thank you so much, everyone who attended today. Thank you to our Microsoft experts. We really appreciate all that information. And as I mentioned earlier, this will be available on demand on our website, as well as the rest of our Microsoft series. And definitely check out those upcoming Microsoft webinars. And thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.